I'd like everyone to take a moment to appreciate this freaky sticker that's on yours and was not on mine, but if that's not frightening, I don't know what is.
I do apologize for not showing you what comes in the box. I wasn't even thinking about it, but there really isn't that much to it. This entire thing comes assembled. This entire thing comes assembled. All you have to do is just bolt this to this. There's a bar that goes underneath that attaches this side to this side. So all you do is just lift this up, slide this entire thing, or that bar underneath, and then there's 4 bolts per side. So put 2 bolts in here, there's 2 more on the back side, 2 right here, and 2 more on the back side. And that's it. As far as plugging cables in, there's only 3. If you look on this side, there's 3 different plugs. There's 2 plugs coming out of this harness. And then there's this top plug, which is coming from this box right here. And that's it. And that is as far as I've made it on my own without any help or instructions. I'd say we made it pretty far. Now there are directions as well as videos online, but I have a professional in speed dial. So what do you say we give him a call, let him come over and finish setting everything else up and show you guys how to do it. Oh look, he's here.
I have this. Right, so this comes with the printer. What this is it's basically a lever switch in a box with a plug, and all it does is when you run out of filament, it'll activate the lever switch. When it closes, it'll send a signal into the control board and tell it to pause the print job. Alright, so the next step is going to be putting the filament into the extruder. If you rotate the machine, this device here is the extruder. Then what you have here, it basically just clamps the filament, and this is your drive gear, and it shoves the filament through the Bowden tube. This is a Bowden style extruder because your hot end's actually down here on the head of the machine, along with a part cooling fan as well as a hot end fan. So with that being said, let's begin inserting the filament into the machine. After you've cut your filament to the 45 like we talked about earlier, you'll then want to crack open this and continue to hold it open, making sure to get the filament in between the guide pulley and the gear, and then you can push it into the tube like so. Shove it up about 1 inch and then let it go. Make sure you're still inside the guide pulley. Alright, so now with that being said, the power switch is right by where the power plug plugs in on the left hand side of the machine right here. You're going to want to go ahead and flip that bad boy on. It'll play its nice little jingle, and then after that you're greeted with this fancy screen. You want to go to Tools, and here you'll click Filament. Now what you're going to do is you're going to preheat the system, or mainly just the hot end, so that it can accept the filament. And the great thing about this machine is it will not allow you to put filament into the machine without the hot end being hot, which will keep new users from cold extruding filament and ruining their printer. So we're going to click Filament in, and it says cold extrusion prevented, auto heating on. Okay. Now you'll see the machine heats up to 200 degrees Celsius, which is generally a great temperature for PLA. Now that your hot end's heated up to 200 degrees Celsius, you can hit the Filament in button. What the machine will do is it'll start extruding filament through the Bowden tube until it gets to the hot end, in which case it'll come out the hot end. So once your filament starts coming out, hit stop on the control. Grab your tweezers that come with the kit and remove the excess filament hanging from the nozzle. The reason why you want to do that is because in just a moment the hot end's going to cool off, and you don't want a bunch of dried up crusty filament on the end of your nozzle when we start leveling the bed. Now that you've hit stop, you can hit back on the control panel, click cooling, and now the machine will begin cooling down the hot end, as you no longer need it to be warm now that the nozzle's primed. Now we're ready to level the bed. Alright, so before you begin the auto level process, you need to run these adjuster knobs down so where it lowers the bed to almost its furthest position so that you can start from the lowest position in your leveling. But before you start that, you need to go to axis. You're going to want to take that y-axis forward some if your machine is positioned in such a way that it's difficult to get to the back. Once you've got it roughly in the middle where you can get a hold of it, you can then hit back and just simply pinch the two layers, the base plate and the heated bed, together so it's easier, and just simply run up the adjuster. Now you're going to want to do this for all four corners. That way it lowers the entire bed. Now it's time to level the bed. From the main menu, go to Tools, Level. Anycubic has prepared the leveling sequence to where anyone, even a novice to 3D printing, will have no trouble leveling this machine at all. It gives you a step-by-step instruction on the display of what you should do to get your bed perfectly level. Now you'll see that the head of the machine has moved to the left-hand front corner. Now this is going to be the first place that you adjust from. Now the idea here is to turn the adjuster until you'll hear a beeping sound, but you're only trying to turn it until you first hear the beep. So slowly loosen the adjuster so that the heated bed rises until you hear a beep, and you'll actually see a slight little light coming from the probe itself. You're going to have to go up a good little ways, as the nozzle needs to be close to the bed. This also takes care of your nozzle height at the same time, as you slowly loosen until you first hear the beep. Right there. It may be necessary to tighten it till it stops, and then get it right when the machine first starts beeping. A solid beep like so. Then what you'll do is you'll come down to the control panel and hit next. The machine will rise up and go to the next corner. From there, you're going to want to do the exact same thing we did on the other side for all four corners. Now that you've gotten the last corner, in my opinion it's best to go back in reverse through all of them and then back forward one more time to ensure that you have a perfect level. So what you're going to want to do is hit last, and it'll go to the previous corner. Now you're going to hear a beep, but what you're going to want to do is once again tighten it till you no longer hear a beep, and then ease off it until the beep gets solid. Just like so. Now hit last again, and it'll go to this corner. You'll want to tighten it again, ease off till the beep gets solid, and then go back to the first corner. Tighten it, ease off. Now what you're going to do is go back through and make sure it beeps solid at every corner. This one's fine. Next. And this one needs to be adjusted further. So loosen it up till it beeps. Just like so. Now what you're going to want to do is hit next. Now at this point, it'll allow you to print a square going all the way around the bed to ensure that it's level. So you're going to want to click on Check Heating. Now the machine will warm up its hot end and then print a square. If the square prints all the way around and looks even, you've achieved a perfect bed level. The machine will start printing the test square as soon as the hot end hits 200 degrees Celsius. And we are off to a good start. Now what we're going to do is we're going to back out of this menu and we're going to drive the bed closer to us and the head up so that we can see exactly how well our square went. So we'll begin by lifting up the Z-axis. Now that we've got the Z-axis up, we'll go ahead and bring the bed forward, which is the Y-axis, 10 millimeters at a time. Now what you're going to be looking for is, you're going to look at this and you're going to make sure that it actually extruded plastic all the way around and made a square. Now you can see that it's nice and thick here, but when you get into this corner it gets kind of light. So that means that we need to recalibrate that corner as the bed is too close to the nozzle. So we need to bring that corner of the bed down. So first we'll remove this test square and then level that corner again. Now at this point I'm just going to re-level the machine, and we're going to fast forward this part of the video because you're not going to want to watch that again. But essentially I'm basically just going to skip into this corner and I'm just going to bring it down. So I'm going to go ahead and start the sequence and then I'm going to skip all the way to that corner. Perfect right there.
Is a thumb up required?
Thumb up is absolutely necessary to indicate that you just secured the level bed. But now we're going to run our test square again by hitting check heating. Now it will warm the nozzle up again and then print the test square once again. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drive the machine back to where we can inspect the test square better. So we're going to go ahead and raise the Z-axis once more. And what you're looking for is for this test square of filament to be roughly the same width all the way around. It doesn't have to be completely perfect. Now I just wiped this bad boy off because there's a bunch of crusty crust from me scraping it. You definitely want to keep this as a lint-free, grease-free, booger-free surface to have the optimal surface for your print to stick to. Now off to the computer to do computer stuff. Okay, so you're going to want to take your full-size SD card and pop it in the slot, and then you're going to want to stick this bad boy into a USB slot on your computer. Now on that SD card it's going to have your slicing software. You'll import a model, and in Kyra you'll have all the settings for your machine, and it'll slice it and then export it as G-code. Once you have the SD card in the computer, you'll be greeted by two separate folders. The first thing you're going to want to do is copy both of the folders, and you're going to want to create a backup on your desktop because we plan on deleting everything on this SD card and using it to run our machine. So we're just going to label this folder Mega, and we're going to copy all the contents into this folder. Now we're going to exit this out so that we don't accidentally delete it, and we're going to go back to the SD card because for now we're going to use it. Now there are drivers if you want to run the machine directly from your computer. I'm not going to go over this in this video, but there is also a quick start guide, and this basically goes over the assembly of the machine as well as a few other things. It's pretty basic, but it's enough to get you going. But what we're really wanting, the real meat and potatoes here, is going to be Kyra. So we're going to open that folder and we're going to have to unzip it. Now that it's finished extracting, you're going to want to double click on this icon here. This is the icon for Kyra. And alright, so now we're going to install Kyra. So from here you can choose browse to choose where it goes, but I'm just going to let it go to wherever it wants to go by default, so I'm going to hit next. We're not going to need the Arduino drivers, but I am going to leave open STL files with Kyra. Now STL files are the files used for 3D printing. You can also use .obj files, but most of the time people use a STL file. So I'm going to install. Alright, now once that's finished, you're going to want to hit next. And now we're going to start Kyra. Alright, so I've already gone ahead and set up Kyra, but I'm going to walk you through exactly what I changed. Or the way you need to have your settings. Set your layer height to 0.2. Now, this can change. It can vary all the way down from, I would say 0.5, but realistically 0.1 all the way up to 0.4 because you're using a 0.4 nozzle, and that is the coarsest your model can be printed. Shell thickness, I would change it to 1.2. We're going to check enable retraction, or make sure that it's checked. More on that later. Set your bottom and top thickness millimeter fill to 1.2, and the density can vary. And as you're preparing models in the slicer Kyra, your layer height and fill density can be changed. Layer height is the resolution, so how coarse or not so coarse, the lower the number, the less coarseness you'll see in the model. And then the fill density is how much material is in between the walls of the print. Alright, so now we're going to change the print speed to 65 millimeters a second. I know this machine prints great at that setting. The printing temperature, that's going to vary between what material you're using. I know that the filament that I'm using, the PLA that I'm using, prints very well at 210 degrees centigrade. Most PLAs print great between 195 to 210, and I would say 200 degrees is a great middle ground. 210 is a good starting point as well. Now I'm going to set the bed temperature to 70. That's a little high for some people printing with PLA, but I've had great results with it. Support type, leave it at none, because for now we're not going to need that. Platform adhesive type, leave it at none. Filament diameter is going to be 1.75. It does not come set to that standard. Flow percent, set that to 100. Nozzle size to 0.4. Now under advanced, we're going to set retraction speed to 60. The distance to 6. Quality layer thickness, leave it to 0. Initial layer line 100. You're going to leave this guy here zeroed out, and dual extrusion overlap can be left at 0.15. Travel speed, move it to 100. Bottom layer speed 30. Infill speed 50. Outer shell speed, let's leave that at 30. And we're going to leave the minimum layer time cool to 5. And your machine is now basically set up. I downloaded a test model off of Thingiverse, but you can use any model you have on hand or any free repository like Thingiverse or myminifactory.com to get your files. In this case, we're going to go ahead and pull a file into Kyra. So we're going to go to Load File, Load Model File, wherever you may have saved the file. In this case, I just dumped it on the desktop. Open the file. Now inside of Kyra, you can manipulate the part by simply clicking on it. Now here you can scale it, but we're not going to scale it because we'll mess up all the dimensions. You can mirror it, but most importantly you can rotate it. Now grabbing this little wheel here, I'll let you spin it, but you're going to want to keep that bad boy at 90 degrees so it prints flat. But you can rotate it. We're going to spin her on around to here. And last but not least, you can click off in space and re-click on the part, long click it, and you can drag her around your print surface. So we're going to zoom out to where we can see it a little bit better and move it to here. Now you'll see up here in the upper left hand side, it's going to take 1 hour and 33 minutes to print this part. Now this is just an estimate. It's usually exaggerated, but you can make it print this part faster, for example, by decreasing, or you can make it print this part faster, for example, by increasing the layer thickness. That cut us down to 1 hour and 4, and we can even rack up the speed a little bit to about 75 millimeters a second, and that'll bring us down to 1 hour flat for this part. But I'm going to take this back down to 65 because I know it prints very well at that setting. So we're going to minimize this temporarily, and we're going to go back to our good old faithful Anycubic supplied SD card. Make sure you have backed up the SD card supplied by Anycubic before you do this, but now you can simply select both of these folders and delete them. We're going to save our G code for our model onto this drive to be inserted into the machine, so we're going to need it to be blank. You can't have anything else saved to it, bless you. So now you can go up to File, Save G code. Make sure you've selected the USB with the SD card in it, and you can name this whatever you want. I'm going to name this JCSD. I'm going to click Save. Now we're going to insert the SD card into the 3D printer. So you're going to want to take your SD card that you saved your G code to, and you're going to want to insert it into the side of the machine. Once you've done that, you want to go to the controller or the touch screen, and you're going to want to click Print. Select the G code you saved to the machine, and you're going to click Print. You're going to be greeted with this screen here, and this is telling you what's happening with the machine. So basically what it's doing right now is it's first going to warm up the bed to 70 degrees Celsius like we set it, and then EO is going to be your extruder or your hot end. That temperature is going to climb after the bed temperature has risen, and it'll climb to 210 degrees Celsius like we set it.
Nice, that was perfect.
Alright, part removal. The best way I found to do this is once your part is complete, hit the OK button on the control, hit back, turn off your motors. Now you can just freely grab the build plate and slide it to you. Now you're going to want to be careful not to damage the build tech surface. It's best to try to get the scraper underneath the edge. Be very careful, as the scraper is sharp and it will hurt you. But if you get it up, now you just slowly work the scraper underneath the part. You can give it a little twist. It'll help it come loose. Ease in a little bit more, a little twist. It'll pop right off.
Looks pretty good to me. I like it.
I own 5 3D printers, and out of the 3D printers I own, the Anycubic Mega is certainly the simplest to set up and get going with. You don't really have to know anything about 3D printing. I think for a novice user like JC here, this is your best bang for your buck. The Anycubic i3 Mega.